go make yourself a coffee, sit down, and we're going to talk about what I have gotten up to over the month of October. This is a new series that I wanted to try and start, sort of like a monthly update. I didn't want to do like a weekly update. I wanted to do like sort of a monthly thing so I can fit in more content in the one video. So I'm going to be calling this series the monthly chapter. So this is going to be episode number 1 of that series. I'm just sort of going to test this out, see what works and what doesn't. But yeah, get yourself a coffee and let's chat. So to start off with, I'm going to start off with what I'm currently reading. So just recently, a few days ago, I've dipped my toes into Ulysses. Now, I've never been scared to read a book before. I've never been intimidated to read a book before. But all the hype, I guess, if you want to say, around this book made me actually pick up a companion book. So this is Ulysses Unbound by Terence Killeen. And this is a guidebook to James Joyce's Ulysses. So what I've been doing is, if you know anything about Ulysses, it's a big boy. It's not only a big boy, it's very difficult, and that is because James Joyce kind of he tackles like every chapter in a different style, and so it's sort of very stream of consciousness. That's kind of his thing, where he's sort of one of the only modern writers who's been able to capture how people don't think like how they think in books, like their monologue in books and stuff. That's not how people think. People get distracted. They think about one word, then they think about another word, then they get distracted by what's going on outside. Even if they're in the middle of a conversation, they're constantly thinking about what's going on. And that's what Joyce is kind of, so far at least, I'm about 120 pages in, that's kind of what I'm getting from this at the moment. And it is hard, right? But every time that it gets hard, it's usually this stream of consciousness stuff. And so you can kind of just sort of like read through it all, and you don't have to understand everything because it's stream of consciousness. You know, it's meant to be like, oh, this guy's mind's jumping, Mr. Bloom's mind is jumping all over the shop, right? So every time it gets to those parts, I sort of just read through it and I'm like, okay, this guy's just getting distracted. This is what's going on around him. I'm seeing the genius. And I'm seeing why everyone thinks this is like one of the greatest books ever written, because I've never read anyone that's able to do that. Like, no one else is writing the way that people are actually thinking and getting distracted and all these things like James Joyce is doing so far in Ulysses. Really, really enjoying that. And then, so Ulysses Unbound is sort of, it goes chapter by chapter. So what I'm doing is I'm reading, they're referred to as episodes. I'm reading one episode at a time from Ulysses, and then every time I finish a episode, I'm reading the companion book's sort of guide on that episode. So Killeen talks about, for each episode, he gives you a summary, and then he talks about correspondences, because Ulysses is sort of has a lot of parallels to Homer's The Odyssey. And then he talks about the style, because every episode is sort of a different style of literary writing. And then he talks about a commentary, which is just sort of, more sort of the comparisons between the Odyssey and what's going on in each episode. And then he has a list of biographical, historical, and select terms. So he talks about the different characters in Ulysses and whether or not they were based on real people in Joyce's life. And then the select glossary is sort of the translations of, because there's a lot of like French and German and Latin and stuff that sort of, and songs, and so that's kind of like the references, if you didn't know, the references that James Joyce is revealing in Ulysses, that has the translations. So this has been really, really helpful, and I think I'd probably still be enjoying it if I wasn't reading this, but this is making the journey through Ulysses a lot more enjoyable. And then I haven't picked it up in a while, but I am still continuing through T.S. Eliot's The Complete Poems and Plays. This guy is an incredible, incredible writer. He's just writing, like, not everything that he says is, like, completely connected, but just the way he's writing is just, like, it's beautiful. That's all I can really say. He's talking about life, and just, staring out the window on a rainy day and stuff like that, but he's just describing it so beautifully. Like, he is an incredible writer. And then I'm also continuing my way through The French Revolution and What Went Wrong by Stephen Clark. This is super cool. It's sort of just going through the pre-revolutionary stuff in revolutionary France and what leads up to the revolution. And I'm just sort of so far up to Louis XIV and how Louis XIV transformed the Palace of Versailles and sort of made it what it is today, and what made it the way it was, when revolutionary France sort of started, and why people viewed Versailles as sort of the epitome of greed and the French monarchy, and that's sort of why people revolted, because, Versailles was sort of a symbol for, why they wanted to start this revolution. But that's where I'm up to in that. That's really well written. That's kind of all I'm reading at the moment. Now let's go through what I read in October. So I had a really good month of reading this month of October. So I'm not gonna hold them up, but I'm just got my Goodreads up on the screen in front of me. A really good month for reading for me. A pretty diverse selection. I wanted to focus on some horror things for Halloween, for spooky season. But I also smashed through quite a few classics, which I'm really happy with. So I read On the Road, my first Jack Kerouac, and that was an absolute experience. I loved that. I've got a review for that, and that seemed to be doing quite well on my channel. So if you want to hear my thoughts on the Road by Jack Kerouac, check that out. I also read Carrie by Stephen King. That was a reread for me. I read it when I was a kid. Also a review out. I talked about in that review how I was allowed to read that. I read that when I was about 11 or maybe 10, 11 or 12. And in that review, I actually talked about how I had no idea how I was allowed to read that, because I'm pretty sure my mother knew what kind of content was in there. But nonetheless, rereading it at this age was a lot better than reading it then, because so much of it just went completely over my head. Next up, I did my first Ian McEwan book. I read Nutshell. I didn't do a review on this because it's a relatively modern book, and I liked it, but I didn't love it enough to do a review on it, because I don't want to do any sort of negative reviews on here. But it was quite funny. Very unique book. Nutshell kind of follows, basically it's from the perspective of a fetus inside its mother's womb, and it's hearing everything. It's really smart. It's super sentient, and basically it's hearing from inside the womb its mother having an affair against the fetus's father, right? And then there's a plot to sort of, there's sort of murder plots and all these things, and the fetus hears all, right? Bit of a wacky book, but it was quite funny, pretty unique. Then I read The Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus. I'm in love with Camus. I'm just, every book I read, I'm just falling more and more in love with that man's writing. Just the way he looks at life and death and stuff is just some incredible takes. And then I got into Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. That was a lot of fun. That was sort of some fictionalized retellings of the Norse myths, the Viking legends and things like that, like Thor and Odin and the old tree, the tree of life and all these things. And that was so much fun. And then I managed to finish Salem's Lot by Stephen King. That was a first for me. Absolutely loved that book. Stephen King, I'm so glad that, because I really liked Carrie, but because it was his first book and it was quite short, the characters were good, but they could have been so much better if it was longer. The Salem's Lot, second published book, that's a really long book, and because of that, his characters are just so well explored. You feel like you know all of them. You know who's neighbors with who, whose cousins are who, who's having an affair with who, all these things. And this whole town. In all of his books, right, at least from what I've heard, because I only read the first two, you feel like this entire town. You feel like that you are actually the person who's just moved in to this small town. And you're kind of going along for this scary ride, and the things that are happening to these characters, they're affecting you as well. Absolutely love that. A really cool take on a vampire story. A bit of an homage to Bram Stoker's Dracula there as well. Then I finished A Clockwork Orange, which is, I think, my second most recent video on the channel. Loved that. Absolutely loved that. Really difficult read, because Burgess actually creates his own language within the book called Nadsat, which I talked about in my review as well. but I just loved the dialogue on free will and morality and all these things. Check out my review for extended thoughts, but just the themes that he's able to talk about while still making it kind of funny, it's incredible, because it's a really serious book, but it's like ironically funny. And then just recently I finished The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. That was my final book for spooky season. I finished that on the 29th of October. I'm probably not going to be doing a review on this because my thoughts are a little bit mixed on it. I found that the characters, I wasn't able to connect with the characters all that well, so I wasn't the biggest fan of it, because I really do I'm sort of a character-driven person. I like character and story. The story was great, like sort of just one of the original haunted house stories, and given the time period that it came out, I think it came out in the 50s or something, early 50s. Given the time period that it came out, what she was able to talk about and do must have been really, really ahead of its time. And I was quite spooked out during, the pages where there was spooky things happening in the house. I was quite spooked, and the way she described the house was amazing. But because it was really short, I think the characters could have been explored like a little bit more. It kind of felt like a little bit like a soap opera, where it was kind of these people in a house and everything, where when something scary happened, it was really scary, but it only lasted for about 3 pages, and then as soon as it was over, all the characters were it seemed like they'd forgotten about it. Whereas in the horror books that I like to read, I like it when the scary things affect them, like psychologically, they continue to affect them. But nonetheless, I thought it was quite good. I liked the ending. The ending the characters sort of snap and they sort of have this breakdown, and it was a really, really cool ending. But yeah, they were kind of my thoughts on Haunting of Hill House. I'm probably not going to do a review on that because, I didn't connect with it overly that well. And like I said, I want to keep this channel positive. But they're the things that I've read in the month of October. Like I said, really, really, really good month for me. Now, let's talk about this month on the channel. This actually today, the 3rd of November, actually marks exactly 1 month that I've had this channel. I can't thank you guys enough for subscribing, for watching, for commenting. I love the comments the most. They're connecting with people over books is all I've wanted to do for such a long time, so it means a lot. So yeah, I've started my channel exactly a month ago. I've got my channel up here. I just want to sort of go through the videos that I liked and the videos that didn't really go so well, sort of just evaluate which content worked. I had my intro video, which actually did surprisingly a lot better than I thought. And then I did my Lolita review, which was my second ever video, my first review, and that did really well. And I was very happy with that. My book haul for September, my On the Road by Jack Kerouac review did really well. That's nearly at 200 views. Carrie review by Stephen King and Salem's Lot, which is a few videos ahead of that. Both the Stephen King reviews didn't do all that well, and I have heard that I maybe because he's sort of a bit of a mainstream writer, people aren't really interested in hearing thoughts about him nowadays because most people have read his books. But I'm probably still going to be doing that just because I really want to, for my sake, for personally, I want to track my thoughts and my links for the multiverse. So I am still going to be putting those up. Next up, I had my first ever vlog with R.C. Walden, and that video did really, really well. That one's at about 1.5 thousand views. It's my first video to sort of get past, 400 or 500. And I'm going to attribute most of that to Robin promoting my channel a little bit and, joining me on this one because he has a nice following. But I really had a lot of fun with that, putting that together as my first vlog and sort of working out a structure for that, and it was a lot of fun. And I didn't really actually have a structure. I kind of just pieced it together how I wanted to, and that's how I kind of want to do all of my vlogs in the future. I just want to piece them together how I want to, and sort of just show me having fun with my new friends who I can talk about books with and stuff. So but you guys seem to really like that one, so I'm going to be continuing to do those in that sort of style. In the future, I want to be doing them with other members from the DeGrave Circle, which is sort of a poetry and writing sort of collective, writer, readers and poet collective in Melbourne that I'm sort of a part of. So I want to do a video with the Street Poet. I want to do a video with Isla Reeds and just other people from the DeGrave Circle. I'm going to be doing some vlogs because I find them really, really fun. Then next up, we did the Myth of Sisyphus review. Also did quite well. Salem's Lot, spoke about that before. A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess review, that did quite well, and I was really, really happy with that. Then I did a bookshelf tour and my book haul for October, and those did quite well as well. It seems like the bookshelf tour did a bit better than the book haul. The book hauls don't get as much traction, but I'm still going to be doing them because I have a lot of fun doing those. So that's what I've been doing on the channel. That's all the videos I posted this month, and it, like I said, exactly a month since I've started this, and I'm not stopping here. Your continued support means the world, and I'm just gonna keep going. So thank you. So this month, in October, I got to catch up a few times with Isla and Jaden, the street poet. And we sort of just went to a cafe one night and we filmed some TikToks and things like that. And we just had some discussions about literature, and all three of us had our books on the table, and we just had some late night coffee. That was really, really fun. I've been doing some writing. I've actually started a book this month. I've got a working title, and the working title is How to Convey a Life on Canvas, and sort of I won't go into what it's about just yet until it's finished. I'm hoping to get it published next year, or maybe the end of next year or the following year. At the moment, I'm not going to say anything, but it's feeling Oscar Wilde meets Fyodor Dostoevsky meets Hanya Yanagihara, a little bit like that. So if that sounds like your thing, I'm kind of exposing the potential dangers of romanticizing dark academia and negativity, sort of things like that. That's kind of what I'm going with. I actually just finished my my second chapter yesterday. I sort of did a bit of a prologue, and then I finished the first chapter yesterday. And I'm going to be I'm sort of interjecting each chapter with this poetry, and the poetry is kind of just sort of this, 4-line poems. They're kind of all linked to what happens at the end of the book. So that's going to be pretty cool. It's one of those books I've sort of, the reader knows what happens at the end. So in the prologue, I actually sort of had the narrator talk about what happens at the end of the book. And sort of, I'm sort of making it like a character study, on sort of the descent and downfall, mentally of this character. I'm really, really happy with it. I'm really happy with my title. It may or may not change, but I'm very happy with How to Convey a Life on Canvas. I feel like that's pretty gripping. I feel like, if I saw that in a bookstore, I'd be interested to read what it was about. So I think I might keep that one. And yeah, I'm sort of just slowly writing, maybe a few hundred words a day. Just going to get through it chapter by chapter. I'm setting myself a goal of making it I'm giving myself a realistic goal of making it like a novella or something. So about 200 pages. But I would be more than happy to make it a standard novel, like 300, 400, 500 pages, would be my goal, but I'm not going to make that I'm not making that my limit because, or my minimum words, because, if I don't reach that and I reach 200 pages and it's done, I don't want to feel compelled to sort of keep writing more nonsense. And, if the story feels better, concise at 200 pages, then I'm going to keep that. And if naturally I just keep writing past 250 pages, then I'm going to go with that. So that's kind of my reading, writing, social updates. So let's talk about some next week plans for the channel. I'm hoping to get another vlog done possibly next week. I'm actually going away for my grandma's birthday this weekend. So when I get back next week, I'm going to try and do that. Whether or not that's going to be with another creator, that's kind of going to be up to how all of our schedules are lined up. I'm going to ask around, see who's free to sort of catch up and do a vlog together. But there's a chance that might just be me. I might be going solo, might do some book shopping, and sort of, just show a bit of what I do in Melbourne when I walk around on my own. Might, show me writing in the cafe or something like that. So yeah, whether or not that's going to be with someone or just me, hopefully there will be a vlog out next week. I've also received quite a few comments to start doing some manga reviews. And as I'm reading James Joyce's Ulysses, that's probably going to take me all of this month. And so I'm probably going to be getting less reviews, like no reviews out this month, unfortunately, because I sort of do a review when I finish a book. And because that is about 1,000 pages and it is very difficult, it's probably going to take me all of this month, maybe even bleed into December as well. But I'm hoping to do a video. We're going to do a podcast style video or a discussion style video on Ulysses. Hopefully me and RC Walden are going to be doing that, as he has studied Joyce's works before, and sort of knows Ulysses a bit more inside out than I do. So we're going to have a conversation from his perspective and my perspective as just a casual reader. But that'll probably be sometime next month, possibly even January. We've got to see where our schedules line up. But because of that, how I'm not going to be doing many reviews on books this month, I've been getting a lot of comments to do manga reviews. So I do have 4 of these beautiful Berserk deluxe editions. I've got the first 4 of these, and I've seen a lot of fantasy booktubers and stuff do Berserk reviews, and I do own them because as a fantasy lover, there's a lot to love in Berserk. I have actually read this first volume. I own the first 4 of these deluxe versions, and I've only read this first one. But I'm thinking over the weekend, I'm actually going to reread it, and then next week I'm going to do a review on this on the channel. So I'm hoping to be doing a review on each deluxe version. So I think each of these big sort of omnibuses, they cover the first 3 volumes of Berserk. So I'm going to be sort of doing it in triplets essentially. But these editions are gorgeous, and I'm going to show sort of more screenshots in the review. But let me know in the comments sort of if that sounds like something you'd want to watch. Let me know if you're looking forward to it. And then I can sort of prioritize it more or prioritize it less. Also, let me know what other kind of manga you would be interested in seeing reviews for, sort of keeping in mind that this is sort of mainly sort of a fantasy horror sort of channel, but I'm open to suggestions. I do read quite a bit of manga, not as much as I used to, but I am sort of well versed in the manga world. But yeah, chuck us some suggestions if you want to see me do reviews on more manga. So that's kind of all I really had to talk about. I just wanted to sort of, do a monthly overview of what I got up to, sort of content on the channel, how well it did, my plans for next week and next month, so you can sort of get excited about it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. This has kind of been, I know this has sort of been a haphazardy kind of video, sort of bouncing from topic to topic. But this is, the first in a series that I wanted to try called the monthly chapter. So just an overview so I can keep track of what I've gotten up to, because I've had a bit of a busy month. Starting this channel has opened up my world to so many new people and so many new ideas and creators and people, friends online, all these things. So I have been quite busy. So these kind of monthly chapters I feel like will be good for me as kind of like a video diary of sort of what I've been getting up to each month. So that's what I've been getting up to in the month of October. Let me know what you've read in the month of October. Let me know what you're planning to read this week, next month, anything like that. Keep commenting. It would be cool if you subscribe though, but I'll leave that one up to you. So feel free to do that down below. I'll also link my Goodreads, my Instagram, and my TikTok. So if you want to follow me there, you can. That's about it. So as I always like to say, keep reading and peace out.